Hello, and a warm welcome to the EDRM Global Webinar channel. My name is Mary Mack. I'm EDRM CEO and Chief Legal Technologist. Today's webinar is a presentation by Nuix called Cloudy About Options. Nuix delivers on-premises security and control. Featuring our expert presenters, Bill Potter, Emily Tice, and Stephanie Johnson. We welcome your questions and feedback in the console. Questions will be answered both during and at the end of the webinar. And this webinar will be available for replay at your convenience for the next quarter, as are all of EDRM webinars. Holly Robinson, EDRM Senior Marketing Operations Manager, is here with us. Can you please share what resources are available for our participants today?
Thank you, Mary. And we're loving On24 with so many more ways for you to engage. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the console. The question mark icon is where you can type your questions for today's faculty, and we highly encourage you to do so. You'll also see the paperclip icon. If you click on it, you'll find today's resources. You can download the On24 engagement tool descriptions to help you better engage with the platform. There's also a link to download it, Migrating Made Easy, Stay on Premises with Nuix, which walks you through secure migration paths. You'll also find 6 steps to evaluating smart legal review with Nuix, a strategic guide for making the best choices about your review platform. If you want to dive deeper, there's a link to explore everything about Nuix Neo Discover on Premises, their AI-powered e-discovery and legal review solution. And if you'd like to connect with the Nuix experts directly, there's a link to book a demo. And be sure to register for our upcoming quarterly workshop with Haystack ID on November 4th, titled Framing Construction Discovery's Future with AI-Powered Document Review. If you'd like to learn more about today's faculty, click on the speaker bios and they'll pop open with more details about our presenters. And just like on Zoom, you'll see the smiley face emoji and lots of other reactions. We highly encourage you to use them throughout the webinar. Finally, click the LinkedIn logo to follow EDRM and Nuix on LinkedIn. Back to you, Mary.
Thanks, Holly. And all opinions expressed here are our faculty's own, not those of their firm or clients, and no legal advice is being provided. So for our expert faculty, we have Bill Potter. He is the Vice President of Pre-Sales Consulting at Nuix. He started as a litigation support analyst for NARA Economic Consultants, an MMC subsidiary, back in 2006. Bill first joined Nuix in 2014 and was a co-founder of Rampiva, which was acquired by Nuix in 2023. In his current role as Vice President of Pre-Sales Engineering, Bill works with clients to take advantage of Neo functionality, including legal hold, data collection, process automation, business and case intelligence, and AI. We're also pleased to have Emily Tice. She is the Senior Vice President of Professional Services at Nuix, and she's managed and consulted on some of the largest electronic discovery matters in the US and abroad since 2003. Emily has focused her client service on large, multifaceted litigation in automotive, banking, and pharmaceutical industries. She's also led investigation matters, including Ponzi and financial regulatory cases, and she specializes in supporting clients in leveraging Discover's sophisticated tools to meet goals while managing cost and risk. We're also pleased to have Stephanie Johnson. She is the Litigation Support Manager for Grant & Eisenhofer and has been in litigation support for 20 years, starting as a contract analyst for DuPont's Ben Late litigation. And in her current role, she's focused on bringing defensible, repeatable, and efficient e-discovery processes for Grant & Eisenhofer's clients and litigation teams. And without further ado, Bill, please take it away.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mary. And thank you, everyone, for making time to join us today. I do always appreciate when folks in the e-discovery community make time out of their frankly, very busy schedules to learn more about what folks are doing in this space. So appreciate the time that you're spending with us today. Just as a high level, we're going to talk a little bit about the big picture perspective that Nuix has on the market. It seems like it's changing in some pretty foundational ways, and that impacts the strategies people have, what they've been doing today, how they think about the future. Then we'll have the opportunity to talk more with Stephanie Johnson, who's a longtime Nuix review user in Nuix Discover, but also has hands-on experience with Nuix Workstation. I think that'll be a fascinating conversation. Always really like to hear from folks who are in the trenches doing the work today. And then finally, Emily will give us a walkthrough of what review in Nuix Discover looks like these days. So very excited about that, and thank you all again for your time today. There's a couple of big moving pieces that we see in the marketplace right now. Of course, the AI conversation has dominated a lot of the e-discovery space, and it's super exciting. We've seen really interesting results, not just in terms of speed of review, but also data segmentation, the types of analysis that teams are doing, and particularly around early case assessment and also the review space. But at the same time that that's happening, the type of data and the volume of data seems to be changing in some pretty exciting ways as well. Modern data is increasingly popping up in the e-discovery space, mobile data, and also just the collaboration with different regulatory environments and the law enforcement space. It's becoming a more complex area, which we think is interesting. I think there was a lot of excitement around the move into Microsoft and Google as platforms. But on the other side of that, the data ecosystem is evolving. One of the things that I've noticed, I run some benchmarking for Nuix. We've got some clients who are doing, 20 or 30 terabytes of data through Nuix a day, which is just an amazing figure when you consider what this space kind of grew up with, thinking of as big data. Another critical component, particularly these days with the evolving regulatory landscape, is maintaining data sovereignty, defensibility, and auditability. It's more important than ever to have clarity on where your data is being held, who has access to it, and who's looking at it. Teams are just more sophisticated. Regulators are more sophisticated. And the need for collaboration is more important than ever, which makes data segmentation and auditability more important than ever. And then finally, we're starting to see some really exciting work being done on the interaction between the automation platforms and the review space. So, again, AI is super exciting, but the intersection of AI and automation creates a lot of new opportunities in the space. Super excited to dig into that a little bit more during the panel discussion with Stephanie. From Nuix's perspective, given that level of change, we're just really trying to double down on our commitment to meet clients with the strategy that they want to deliver, rather than forcing them to migrate into a SaaS environment. We want to make sure that they continue to have access to Nuix on-premise where that makes sense, both for data processing and for review. We think that this is really important. One, because, as popular as SaaS is, there are particular data sovereignty and security constraints. A major bank CISO came out just a couple of months ago with a public letter talking about security concerns in the SaaS space. The other side is, given the growth in data volumes that we're seeing, SaaS becomes economically prohibitive really quickly. And there are challenges around model lock and ecosystem lock if you have a SaaS platform. So there are definitely scenarios where being an on-premise data processing and review shop makes sense. And at the end of the day, Nuix is really just trying to meet clients where they are. So we have a number of clients that are doing on-premise data processing and review, clients who are using Nuix SaaS for that review, and also clients who have a hybrid scenario. So really just trying to make sure that we're aligned with our clients' go-to-market strategy and operation model, rather than trying to force one direction or the other. And so with that, we have the opportunity today to talk with Stephanie Johnson about her experience as a Nuix user of Nuix Discover on-premise, soon to become Nuix Neo Discover. Stephanie, I'd love to just get us started by hearing a little bit about the work that you do, the firm, and then the work you do for Grant Eisenhower.
So currently, Grant and Eisenhower practices a number of litigation departments, corporate securities, international, environment, Delaware Chancery, birth injury, civil rights, and mass tort. And for my team, we actually support the firm from collection through trial. So we do our own client collections. Our processing is done through either Nuix Workstation or directly into the Discover platform. And then we carry it through all the way to trial.
And you've been working with the Nuix platform for a number of years. Is that correct?
Yeah, so in 2012, we started looking at new software, and we put together a team of document reviewers to actually look at 5 different pieces of software. And in the end, we ended up going with Ringtail and also implementing Nuix Workstation as our processing leg.
When we were getting ready for this panel, we were talking about what a commitment it is for law firms to make the time and to explore new options and onboard into a new tool. And Stephanie, you'd mentioned going back to some of those early emails. Emily, were you part of that onboarding process with Stephanie?
So I was definitely with Ringtail, now Discover, at the time. I was doing some of the consulting cases, but colleagues that are still on my team today. Stephanie, when she gets an upgrade, it's from the same person who helped her set it up that first time. So yes, we have a real long tenure. I think we're just really committed to the product and really love it, and we stuck around, and the customers too. Like, we love partnering and knowing teams like Stephanie's all along the way, and we have a sense of what they do with it and what's important to them, and we've been collaborating on their use all along. Absolutely, yeah.
So Stephanie, it sounds like you've been through some big changes along the Nuix Discover journey. Starting with FTI, making the move over with the acquisition by Nuix. We've talked about sort of on-premise, but I know you'd mentioned moving into an AWS-based environment. Can you just talk to us a little bit about what your experience working with Nuix has been like over those changes in that time?
So when we adopted Ringtail in January of 2013, we were on version Ringtail 8.3, and they were just going to 8.4. So anybody who remembers Ringtail, there was probably 5 different pieces to Ringtail back then. We didn't have integrated TIFF on the fly. I'm trying to remember everything else that was not integrated. So going up to now, we're on version 10.19. Sometimes I'm stunned when I look at the difference, especially when we were investigating to go over all of this. I was like, wow, it has changed so much. And it makes my life so much easier. It makes my teams happier. It's just come so long. And with all of the enhancements and everything, it just validates that we made the right decision in 2012 because they're keeping up with the market. And I still, keep an eye on what's happening in the industry. And I feel like we're right on pace with where the industry is going, and we're able to keep up with everyone.
You had shared some specific details around the size of your Nuix environment and the team that was required to administer it. One of the things that stuck out to me was just the rate of growth, right? So I think you shared that you're doing almost 4 times as many workspaces today as when you got started. Can you talk to us a little bit about just what it's like to administer a Nuix environment? And do you have a large team? How's that team makeup? What's that kind of day-to-day like?
So when we initially bought Ringtail, we started out with 50 licenses. When we rolled it out, I think we had 33 databases being hosted. Today, we have 350 licenses with 329 databases, with generally about 150 active at any given time. So we have our hands full, but to be honest, the software, once you put in the training time with your teams, they're pretty self-sufficient. And there's just so many tools that help them do their job that they'll call me and ask questions of how to do something. But then once you give them that knowledge, then they can just go in and do their day-to-day without a lot of help from my team. And our IT team, we staff a fairly small team, and we rely on Nuix to come in and do our upgrades and basically we rely on Nuix to do the upgrades, but we supply the support for the actual servers and the back end, but not having to worry about the upgrades from our end, and our IT staff having to be trained on that is a huge plus. They have their own job. They don't need my added burden.
Yeah, everyone in this space, it always seems like they're wearing 3 or 4 hats at the same time. Emily, I know you see kind of the bigger picture of Nuix, Nuix's Discover clients. Does Stephanie's story align with what you're seeing at other clients?
It does. I've talked to clients here in the U.S. and then globally. We have a footprint of Discover all over, and the structure of the databases, on the back end, the server implementation, all the pieces that IT team supports and manages is really something we get a lot of good feedback on. Particularly, sometimes somebody might be posting other stuff too, and have a little bit of a comparison going. And so we have heard that it is a comparatively lightweight sounds like not quite the right term, but comparatively manageable install and maintenance and all of that. It is it may be a favorite tool of the IT team when we talk to them, the ones they have to manage. And of course, we do have a team of professionals that partners alongside, just like Stephanie indicated, and we can come in and work directly with you as needed. So some people like to, upgrade themselves. Some people say, you know what, I'd like my best friend Greg to come do it. And that works great too, because we get a real connection going about understanding what our customers are doing and where we can lighten the load. If maybe there's a piece of it that's a little bit harder on the team, we'll look at that.
And Emily, I know in the past you've talked about the importance of Nuix's commitment to maintaining a single code base between Nuix Neo Discover SaaS and Nuix Neo Discover on-premise. I'm always impressed by the longevity of the team, both on the engineering side and the client success side. How important is that to your strategy for engaging clients like Stephanie?
Well, the single code base is so fundamental to what we do. The Discover development team was actually really early to move to continuous improvement, continuous delivery, and the way that they develop and check in the work that they do. A long time ago, everybody would go off in different groups and develop a little something and try to merge it back in and hope that nobody's, on the left team interfered with what the right team built. And we learned that there's a better way, and we were really early adopters of that strategy and have been using it for years. So that just leads to stability, and it leads to also just a more efficient rollout because we are checking constantly whether things are working versus running into a problem right before a release. And it is foundational to how we release both in our cloud environment and on-premise. We want to support one code base, have the features work in a way that our customers can rely on, whether they're accessing it through a hosted option with us or on their own, or a little bit of both. We do have customers who will go hybrid for a particular reason, maybe regional or just some reason where they want to make use of some cloud and some on-prem. So it's really fundamental to everything we do. And it is part of why we can remain committed to an on-premise community because that approach, offers that. And we do not want the on-premise community to have, sort of a little bit of SaaS envy, right? We want them to have those features and on a good cadence. So we regularly, multiple times a year, we'll package up the new features that maybe have been out in SaaS, getting a little bit of testing, hardening a little bit. Every few months we say, all right, let's roll those up and make those available to those who are ready to upgrade. And Stephanie's usually one of them. She likes to get the goods. Yeah.
Stephanie, you'd shared some aspects of your Nuix usage that was particularly high impact. And I think Emily just alluded to one in terms of your ability to stay current as an on-premise user, have access to kind of leading edge technology. Could you share some of the reasons that you continue to leverage Nuix Discover in the review space?
I mean, versus going to a SaaS model? Well, our biggest reason is the security. We do not want to go cloud-based, and we may have one or two pieces of software within the firm that are cloud-based only because you have to, but otherwise we keep everything on-prem. And aside from just the risk of cloud storage, personally, I enjoy it because I have full control of my servers. When you're dealing with SaaS, to process data or to load data, you're essentially copying it up to the cloud server for it to then be loaded into the database. Whereas I can take a shortcut, copy that data directly onto my server, and then just have the database point to those files already on my server. So it saves me a huge amount of time being able to avoid that internet upload, download connection. So that is a major reason for us to stay on-prem. But to stay with Discover, I would say it would be the easy to build searches. We have heard feedback that it is much easier to build advanced searching within Nuix Discover versus other platforms. My saving grace in Discover is the load search file feature. When you're doing a debt prep, you're doing pulling documents from an expert report, being able to load a list of document IDs and have it come back in a minute. That is such a lifesaver than trying to fit it into another platform with a large search string of document IDs. For our teams, that saves a huge chunk of time.
Do you think that sort of ease of use for the end user is part of why you're able to administer an on-premise environment with a relatively smaller team. I think that sort of stood out to me as sort of an assumption that people might be making about on-premise is there's a lot of effort and work that go into that. Curious to your perspective, like supporting that end user and the level of burden required.
I agree with Emily that our back end, we rarely have issues. I mean, it's amazing. We did run into an issue a couple of weeks ago, and me and the IT manager were just shocked. We were like, we never have these issues. We have no idea what this is. Because we just don't have those day-to-day issues. You know, if one of the supervisors stops working or we're seeing a little wonkiness, you reboot it and you go about your day. Like, honestly, that is the extent of issues that we generally have with the back end of Nuix.
Mm-hmm. And Stephanie, when you were talking about the load search file, it gave me a little nostalgia because I remember when we added the feature, and I think it's a good example of one of the benefits of the collaboration with customers, because that came from a customer request. Customers saying, you know, somebody sent me a list of Bates numbers or doc IDs. I need the easiest way in. And it's through close connections with customers like Stephanie and others, you know, SaaS and on-premise, that you'll see these smaller things that make a big difference, you know, are really important. So we want to do the big feature headline type stuff, and I'll show you some of that. But we also want to keep a really close watch and focus on these quality of life things that are so important when people are going through their work. And so that's why we really like to stay close to the you know, customer and build a lot of community or collaboration there. So we can capture those things and say, you know, this would make a big difference, especially in a small team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stephanie, one of the things that you had talked about that I thought was really cool was the work that you do supporting other law firms that you might be co-counsel with on projects. Can you just elaborate on how that sort of collaboration works in your day-to-day with Nuix Discover?
So as a plaintiff's firm, we work with sometimes just one or two co-counsels. Sometimes it can be up to 5. And generally, when you're dealing with that number of law firms, then there's a bidding process, and we've been able to win those bids and host for all of our team plus the co-counsel teams. And I've established good relationships with co-counsel because they enjoy our software. And like I said, once they learn how to use the tool and get used to it, right? Because it is a bit of a culture shock from what they're used to. But once you get used to it, they enjoy using it because it is intuitive and like those extra tools with the load search file and just different features that they put in to help the average user, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody has to be an expert. They can just be an average user, or I should say intermittent user, because not everybody's in every day. So I think the features help with that. And they help co-counsel adjust to reviewing in a new platform.
And I think it also, it's wonderful. I love to hear that in the collaboration in your hosting that we're getting users in who aren't maybe the lifers that you and I are, and to see them understanding and getting the value. It also tells me that, you know, you at times are probably in other, you know, in the reverse scenario where you are, someone else is hosting you as co-counsel. And so that means that you always are kind of browsing other options and then coming back home and to discover. And so it's good to know that, well, you know, that you get that opportunity and then you see that you're still feeling fully supported in Discover.
Absolutely.
So I do always like this sort of the panel discussion aspect. but I do know that, that we wanted to invite Emily to talk to us a little bit about sort of what's new in Nuix Discover. Before we wrap up, Stephanie, are there any kind of final thoughts that you have? And you've talked about on-premise versus SaaS, which I thought was really interesting. The work that you've done hosting co-counsel, your experience in other platforms, and then the relationship that you have with Nuix. I detected a little hint in Emily's voice around sort of pride of like, those are our clients and we're always proud to have them. Any sort of final thoughts before we pivot over to Emily and give her the chance to walk us through what's coming up new in Nuix Discover?
I guess my biggest, selling point for Nuix is when we were first rolling out predictive coding and Cal. It's a lot to learn to roll out to new teams. So they actually sent us an engineer to walk us through the process, to help us understand what we were looking at. And then they also offered best practices of how to run a Cal review and how to set it up and move forward through the entire review, not just getting us started and saying good luck, but they led us through the entire process. So they do have the resources for, when you make a big jump in technology, you can't just hit the ground running. You need some help. And they always offer that. You can always call someone and they will have someone available to help you, walk you through that new process.
Yeah. And we enjoy doing it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
You enjoy doing it, Emily? Well,
I do.
You're a
I mean, I think
practitioner.
if anybody knows me, I like this job a little too much. But yes, so thank you for sharing, Stephanie. Maybe we'll come back at the end and close things out. But we want to give you all a chance to see some of what Stephanie's team is getting value from, as well as what's coming in the upcoming Discover on-premise and SaaS, because it's one code base. Software. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in and do a little bit of a live demo, and then we'll come back around. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen. See, the hardest part, right? All right. I think here we go. Okay. And let me know if you're not seeing it, but I think you are. All right. So here I am in our demo environment, and I'll just zoom in a little bit. I hope that's a good resolution for everybody. And I want to just walk you through a little bit of the fundamentals and then what's new and what's coming. So here we are. We're logged into Nuix Discover, Nuix Neo Discover. And we've got, of course, our case list. These are the projects I might be working on. Over here is where I might add users or create new cases. One of the classic things to do is actually have a template case with your best practices and configurations set, and then you just make a copy of that and you're off to the races on your next matter. We are updating our environments with changes in each release. So if you click here, you'll get sort of the headlines of what's in the latest release and what's coming up. So I encourage you all to take a look at that. We can share that out, or you can reach out to find out. The things are going to be what I show. So let's jump into a case just to get a little oriented. I'm going to jump into this one here. And one of the new things is that we are adding dashboards like this one. So this is a new welcome, if you will, when you come into Nuix Discover, this case overview dashboard that's interactive. So you can jump right into all of the documents if you'd like. I know some people like to start that way. Give me everything and I'll slice and dice. Some people like to search. And other important top-level information, like custodians and things like that, how the review is going, etc. With the idea of basically quick starting your work. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into a previous result. I was working hard earlier and I want to get right back at it. And so I'll jump into my documents. And right here, I've got my screen set up with these 4 columns, but that's absolutely something you can adjust. So if you all are migrating, for example, from another platform and you want to adjust it to look most like what you're used to, you can do that, right? You can just adjust it and make it however you like to work, including not just the layout, but which pieces of information, which cards or panes are showing. So here's my classic, just 4 columns, if you will. And so over here, I might navigate to either a saved search if I want to bring things up. Maybe I have even some foldered saved searches. So the foldering of this is one of the newer review or new features coming out. So my production QC searches are all easy to find in one place, etc. I'll come back to this area here, but I'll just collapse it for a moment so we can have a little more real estate and take a look at this document. So here I've got a view of the document with some persistent hit highlighting, right? Of course, keywords are never leaving us, right? Even though we have better or additional ways to work. And so I've got my hits throughout the document, and then perhaps I have a different search term list with different color highlighting. One of the things that kind of reminds me of our conversation earlier of small things that can make a big difference that come from our user community. One of the things we added was this keyword summary option. Now, the email I showed was really small, but of course we could have a long document with hits throughout. This shows the hit with some context, and then if I need a little bit more, I can get that. And so as I move through data, I can get that just clicking through, over here. I can leave it toggled and just get a real feel for whether this is worth my time or not. Or I can just toggle it back off as well. And then on my right here, this is the heart of it all, right? This is review. Maybe I'll unreview this document quickly so we have a chance to do it ourselves together. This is a template here that I have where I can say a document is relevant. And I've got conditions set up, very simply set in the UI. No additional admin needed, really, to say, okay, if it's relevant, I have to give it at least one reason. Let's tag at least one issue. And then maybe I need to leave a comment as well. Quickly there. And now it might be done, and it'll let me know if there's a warning, if this is unexpected or not. So if something I do is out of sync, in fact, maybe I don't need the comment, I'll remove that. And even with some little accelerator buttons down here that you can configure. If you're using the robust analytics, you may be looking at a lot of similar content. Maybe you've brought your continuous active learning, scoring like documents together. Maybe you're using email threading. You don't want to do a lot of, complex tagging over and over, click, click, click. And so you can save your favorite coding combinations and reuse them easily. That's just kind of the heart of review, right? Looking at the document and reviewing the document. Over here is the list, which of course is sortable, and you can adjust what columns are shown. I've just got a simple one here, but you can even save combinations so that maybe you're building your privilege logout and you'd like to see the privilege fields. Maybe we're really interested in who's talking to whom. And if we are interested in that, maybe we'll bring up a quick visual of that. So I will grab a few documents that might be valuable for that. And maybe I'll switch my layout a little bit to show a communication network. And so these documents, I just have this maximized on this screen to show this nice and big for everybody. But here on these documents, I can see, who's talking to whom. And I actually can call out that maybe there's some emails traffic leaving and going to a personal email or competitor email or somewhere it shouldn't, right? So we see that traffic, in this case, going to AOL. And we can explore different parties as well. So this started out showing me the top 5 people, but I could pick somebody else if I wanted to, for example, and see who they communicate with and lay it out in a more helpful way. And these are movable as well. We can also do this with the other side of the email address. So I'll pop this down for a moment. And we can look at the communications from domains as well. So if I go ahead and grab a data set that has a little more of a difference in domain, just because our demo data, I want to find one that has a nice one for you there. We can go ahead and do that as well. It looks like I'm having a little bit of a blip there, so I'll go back. So one of the things I want to make sure to show you is, like I said, some of the newer capabilities. And so let's take a look at what we've added in terms of cognitive AI. And so we have added the ability to do an AI enrichment that will classify and score documents for you based on what they're all about. So here, for example, I'm going to open up this enrichment section here on the browse pane, and we might use it. I'll make it a little wider, get a little more focus on this part. We might use it to explore what kinds of records are coming into the system. You know, are they healthcare related? Are they human resources related? Are they business documents? And if they are, you know, what kind of score are they getting for that? How likely is it to be a business plan? Not just that it's flagged for that, but how likely is it to be that? Or maybe it's a meeting agenda or something like that. And then, I'll show a document in a moment. Here are topics. So, okay, it's an agenda, but what is the agenda talking about? Is it talking about financial transactions? Is it talking about computers and electronics and things like that? So it gives us more information about the documents. So let me pull up an example document for you. Pull this back over. And what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to collapse that for a moment. I'm going to switch this screen to show us more about that. So for this document here, this looks like it's an agenda. You know, you can kind of get a sense of what it's about. It's meeting notes about the various consulting things going on at Enron. And so here in record types, that's what we're trying to figure out what it is. It got flagged for a couple different things, but we'll sort by score. And you'll see meeting agenda comes up right here as a score of 0.84. So highly likely to be a meeting agenda. So if we're searching for certain contracts or certain agreements, this is the kind of thing that can be helpful. And then in the topics area, that's what's the agenda about, we get a score on that as well. So it looks like it's related to econ and specifically likely investments versus, say, some of the lower scoring options that are here. So that's the idea behind that. This kind of information can be leveraged in our continuous active learning. And when this enrichment data is part of the classifier, it's going to give you even more efficient results. You're going to get the kind of recall and precision that you would get in continuous active learning, but with fewer rounds. So we've seen really nice results from working with customers to see how that's going. And so now I'm going to show you another thing that we do besides capturing these types and topics. We also can capture things here. I'll pop this up for a moment. Things that we call entities. So different things that might appear throughout the document, you know, social security number, driver's license, tax file number, things like that, monetary value. So I'll just pull up a quick example of that. And you'll see here that we have this, I've blanked it out because I don't want to actually show someone's social security number, but this is a document from Enron where I just changed it to ones. And here, I'll make a little more space for this as well, just as we work. And so here we're going to look at this document in the image view. And we can see over here, I'll tell you, actually, let me make this just a little wider again. Here we go. Over here we have the entity types. And so we see that that information is picked up. We've got the social security number right there and the person involved, Christina here, and the date. So we're capturing that. I'm showing it to you on a single document basis as an example, but of course we can get this information, you know, across documents, and we can even use it to redact. So here I'm able to pull that information, the same stuff that is leveraged here, as a reason for redaction. And so this list is going to be dynamic. It's specific to this document. So it matches this unique values over here. And I can go ahead and find that social security number and redact it. And again, that's something you could do across your documents. I show it here for illustration, but you can do this across many documents. So that's a bit about the COG AI element. And again, I'll just point out that it can be, I'll go here for a moment to where we do our predictive coding. We can include that in our predictive coding work. So I might put that AI enrichment information into the template that I use for this. So I'd go ahead and hit add, and it would now be part of that classifier as we learn more and more about our data as we do our work. And that will be make it more efficient as we go. So that is one of the first focus areas of our Nuix Neo Discover. And the next one is the use of Gen AI for review. So I'd like to highlight that one next. So I'll pop out to just a different database because I have examples over here that I'd like to show. And here I've set, you might notice I set to start on the analysis page. So just another thing you can configure. Some users are going to want to start on that case home. Some users will want to start right on the search screen. Today, I'm here to talk to you about this AI projects capability. So I set my default start page to be here. So just lots of ways you can make Discover scoped correctly for the users that you're going to onboard and what they're going to do in their work. So here's AI projects, and here's some examples. So you'll see here, I just have some Enron data. And what I've done is I've started with the idea that I'm going to have a set of 50 documents or so. I pulled them randomly as a sample that I'm going to use to evaluate prompts for review. And so in here, I put that in. I said Enron, and I pointed at the documents. And then I have a certain number of prompts, and I'll focus just on the relevance ones today. But you can certainly think about exploring prompts for things beyond that. So here I had a version 1. You'll see down here it's grayed out because I'm not able to change it. I want that history. I want that trail of what my previous versions were. I can write a note, though. I can describe what was going on and maybe a little bit about what I was behind the original prompt. And so here, I have a first look at what I might be looking for in Enron. And I have reviewed these documents because I need to evaluate how well the prompt does at reviewing these documents. And so I have just the indicator of how I'm going to tell the human review from the prompt results. And so I did that, and then I went ahead and I looked at it, and I said, let me refine that and make a second version. So you can see I've explored adding additional pieces to what I'm looking for, and then a third and a fourth. And with each of these, we are tracking the prompt and the scores that are coming back for each prompt. If I click back on the top for a moment, and I'll click on this results, you can see that here. So version 1 through 4 have been gone through. All the documents have gone through, and we have a sense of what the conflicts, meaning the difference between human and AI determinations are. And we have an indicator of that here as well. So let me go ahead. You'll see that I liked prompt or version 2 the best. So we wanted to give you a way to indicate which one is the strongest performer for you, because you're going to need that and for audit, as well as when you go ahead and run this across the larger data set that you want to do human review, or that you want to reduce human review of. So let's go look at these 50 documents for a moment in the documents page. And here you'll see that we have an AI results pane showing. So it gives you a sense of the rationale of how this document was scored. So this is a low scoring document. It's a 20 out of 100. And it says, it does have a little bit of this, but it doesn't look like it's really going to be what you're asking for in the more detailed prompt. It knew that I wanted version 2 to be my preferred, and so it's jumping to that. That's what that star is. Over here on the list view, where we see the search results, we have an overlay of the AI, right? So AI not sure, AI highly sure, sure that it's not what you want. And the gray here, by the way, is an indicator that it's not relevant, right? So this is an agreement. This is the human and the system agreeing. It received a 0 score, really not what we need, because it's a lunch meeting, right? It's not really what we want. I think what's interesting down here in this one is that we see that this has an AI score of 98. I'll click on it. You can see that of 98. There's a lot of reasoning here, right? We've got the reason for this determination of having such a high score, as well as citations directly from the document, and additional notes about the reasoning. And so what I thought was interesting about this one is we're showing the score, but we're also showing the score from the previous version. So this will help me see if I've got that refinement that I was looking for that led me to move from version 1 to 2 or 3 to 4. And so you'll see it went from 60 to 98. So we did a better job, because the human also thought so, right? It's a green relevant document. We did a better job with this prompt of identifying this as the kind of document we're looking for. Let's see if I can sort these by score. So just quickly sort back and forth. Let's go look maybe at this 80. This one is an 80% likelihood. And I just want to point out these citations are actually available for overlay on the document itself. So I can jump right to the part of the document that the generative AI referenced as part of why it made this determination. So they're available for overlay. So that's just a look at what we're doing there. There's more to come. We're working with some early adopters and getting some really great feedback about how they're managing the workflow, combining this, for example, with some continuous active learning, sampling documents where maybe the AI was less sure, to see how that might improve with Cal. Some really interesting interplay between the various fundamental tools that we've had for a while, like continuous active learning, which was new at one time, but now a standard. And even the COG AI, the AI enrichment that I showed earlier, improving that, and then the Gen AI as the first level attack at review, whether it's for relevance or something else. And of course we have, I don't have time to show everything, but of course we have a batching system in here that allows you to parcel the review out and get that quality control or move it to that second level or privilege review. So that's some of what we have. You'll also notice just a little bit of a different look and feel. As I mentioned, we have that case home dashboard. We've also just updated some of the display here, some of the styling, and you'll see us iterate on that as we continue to roll things out based on user feedback. We have some faceting dashboards planned, etc. So I think that's what I wanted to show live. I have some more in the slides that I'll go back to. So let me just attempt to stop sharing. Here we go. And jump back into the slides. All right. Are you seeing the slides? I just want to make sure. Bill, do you see them? Yes?
I am seeing the Nuix
you see my name?
Discover Emily Tice.
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure I don't have to share those. Great. So I'll just keep going. So I want to talk a little bit about how this, thank you for the thumbs up. I want to talk a little bit about how this all fits in to what we offer. So we have the functionality I've just shown and more, right? I only got a few minutes, available as part of our Nuix Neo legal solution. And you'll see here that we have the first half, or the left side of it, kind of along with the EDRM thinking, right, is right here. And that, sorry, one second, there we go. I just clicked here. That shows you some of the things that are available in our ECA capability. So we have some of the classic processing that you all know Nuix for, and then added in automation that Bill and his colleagues are really famous for, in terms of what we can do to automate the many steps that are valuable in processing and enrichment, and reporting on that in dashboards, and then sending it on to review in a seamless fashion. As well as a model builder that allows you to tweak those models that I showed earlier about types and topics and entities. So that's the left side. Nuix Discover sits here right after it, to the right of it. And it includes everything that Ringtail, now Nuix Discover, now Nuix Neo Discover, all along has been delivering for the fundamentals of e-discovery. And the cutting edge elements, right? Adding in each of the pieces, the conceptual mapping that we all know in the sort of petri dish, to the continuous active learning, to now the Gen AI and COG AI and all of those things. But surrounded by robust data loading for load files, robust ingestion capabilities where you can process using the engine from Discover itself, to workflow batching, to production and load files and all of that. Everything that you need to have to be a major player in this space. And so that's where this Nuix Discover sits. And it's just part of our platform to ensure that we're covering all of what you need in the e-discovery world. And just, there we go. So I did the demonstration, and now just here's a little bit more about what makes it Nuix Neo Discover. I pointed some things out, but just to complete the picture. So these are the 5 key areas in the first chapter of Nuix Neo Discover. I'll click to the next screen just to keep it moving. The first one is that, got a little too click happy. Hold on, there we go. The animation will take care of it. The first one is that cognitive AI that I showed. And so you'll see in that first box there, a little bit of that, how I can see the scores and categorizations. And then pointing out this graph in the center here is actually our continuous active learning graph that shows you how well you are doing at pushing responsive or relevant or hot, or whatever it is you're training for, those documents to the front of the review queue, right? To the ACEs to the top of the deck, and how this AI enrichment improves that. And then there's the find and redact capability. So I showed the redacting of the social security number, so allowing you to leverage that for that as well. So that's the first piece, which we walked through. The next is the Gen AI that I just took you through. And so you'll see that I demonstrated the idea of using it for first pass review, but of course, we could use it for confidentiality or even privilege. Even you could train prompts on sentiment. We can work on that really depending on what you as the prompter are focused on. Next up, to complete this and really make sure that you not only are able to review the documents, but you're also able to develop case strategy and know them, right? Because if we're allowing the AI to do some of the review, well, we can't lose out on the understanding that would come from doing that review. So we're adding in conversational element where you'll be able to interrogate the data. What are the themes? Who are the players? What are the dates? That kind of thing. And then, as you can see, summarizing that kind of information and doing some chronology work as well. So that is next up in this topic area for Nuix Neo Discover. And then the last 3 is the UI elements. As you saw some of that, here's a preview of some timeline displays that we'll have. We actually just rolled that case overview screen out in the US last night. So I'm already getting emails back about that and how valuable they're finding it. And it's actually leading people to click on some of the other dashboards and that maybe they just had passed by and find value in those as well. I got a feedback comment about the review dashboard and how it helps calibrate how different people are reviewing relative to one another in the team. So the UI interface updates, we're going to be bringing semantic search into play as well. So you can be, search beyond text, maybe look for images. If you do construction work, show me all the PVC pipe. If you're looking in a cross-language scenario, this can be helpful. Or just generally, if people aren't explicitly using the terms that you're looking for. If they use the word bucks instead of cash or dollars or what have you, we want you to have that understanding of we're still looking for something financial there. And then layering in automation. Automation has been adding a lot of value to the processing side, and we want to bring that to the review element as well. And then, this has been a point from the start that we are focused on one code base. And so you can deploy it on-prem. You can deploy it on your own servers. And so then when, there's an AWS issue, you keep going about your day and no problems there. You can deploy it on your own cloud, right? So you can, be in Azure or AWS of your own. And then, yes, we do have hosted capability as well for you. And you're welcome to shop from both columns if you'd like to do a little bit of on-prem and a little bit of SaaS. So I'm just letting it fill in there. Of course, we have the certifications and security and all that necessary for the cloud. So now I just want to take a moment to talk about 2 things that relate to coming to Nuix Discover from another platform. So if you are on-premise now and you're looking here today because you'd like to stay on-premise, of course you have thoughts around, well, what about all the data I have in place? And we are, of course, thinking about that as well, and how to take you through your migration journey. And so, of course, we would work with you to prepare a project plan and scope the work that you'd like. Usually there's some data that will come, some data that would sit, and be sort of dormant and potentially come to migration later. So of course we deploy and test as if we would with any fresh install, and you'd move to a point where new matters are starting there. And then we'd work with you to triage and phase the migration, bringing data from ARM files or what have you into Nuix Neo Discover, passing quality checks and counts and everything like that until you're really at business as usual. We've done migrations from different platforms before. We've done migrations from different versions of Discover itself. So we have a lot of experience bringing people through complex projects like this. But you don't just need to bring your data, you need to bring your users along too. And so our training team is focused on getting the right sized training ready for the different personas or users you might have. So we have modules that are in our learning management system. We'll have some live trainings as well, specifically trainings that will help what we might call a switcher or an adopter. So, helping you with jargon. What was used to, it's called this in your old platform. You can find it over here in your new platform. Really just to ease that transition. And once you're over that hump and you get a little comfort, you'll be off to the races. But we recognize that can be one of the challenges for teams. It's just getting folks to buy in and get going. And so we're focused on that as well. And that brings us to the end, to our Q&A, if we have any. I think we're right on time.
When we were starting this process, I asked Emily if she was confident she could cover material at that depth, and she said, "I'm a pro, Bill. I can do it." Emily, I thought that was really fantastic. Thank you for walking us through the exciting advances in Nuix Neo Discover. As mentioned, we do have time for questions if folks have anything that they'd like to dig into in more detail. Emily, it looks like there's a question here about migrating from Relativity on-premise. Is that something that your team has experience with?
It is. I'm writing back to Michael right now. Yes, absolutely. It is something that we've done in the past, and it's something we're gearing up to do. We're hoping to have the opportunity to do that at scale with hopefully a number of people. We are familiar with it, and they are both SQL-based relational databases. They both use DT search. There's a lot of fundamental stuff that is just kind of parallel, and we're familiar with and have a plan for that. So yes.
Are there any big gotchas or things that you think people should keep in mind when doing that migration?
I think that we'll want to do like an inventory of what cases do you have, what sizes, what versions, right? Because we might be making certain assumptions, and all software, including ours, has evolved over time. And so if people have ARM files sitting around, let's look at those dates and let's vet that we have the right assumptions around the data model that's coming in. So just a little bit of diligence, I guess, is what I think we'd want to apply. But we would definitely do that in the scoping.
Wonderful. Other questions from the audience that might be. I think one question that pops up a lot, Emily, is for clients who have Workstation and Nuix Discover, do you have guidance as far as when to use one for the data processing versus when to use the other? I know they both use the Nuix engine. Do you have thoughts as far as that compare and contrast?
Sure, and I think it's great to talk about both, because we have a lot of Workstation customers and may not even know fully that you can initiate a processing job directly from within Discover. There is a difference in that the Discover ingestion wizard is a wizard. It's got a specific outline of options and steps meant to be easy to adopt and really repeatable. The workstation capability has a lot more switches and options and tweaks and configurations that you can have, which can be a lot maybe at times for those who might say, that's a lot of little decisions, but also gives you a lot of control if you do need one of those special options, you want it just so. And so I think it comes down a little bit to what your specs are, who your people are, and the data at hand. So we have some people who will process in workstation most of the time, but then might layer in some ingestions when it's appropriate, or for certain data sets or certain use cases. So it's a little bit of just getting the right fit for the options that are available in each. And we're certainly happy to have that conversation with anyone, anytime. I see a question of, does the platform allow, I know we have to end soon, so I'll answer this one and then we'll go. Does the platform allow users, I have to give this back to Mary, right? Allow users to load from the front end? Can you upload or can that be contained? Yes, absolutely. So that you can, through the UI, upload. If you're on-prem, you can just place the data in the proper folder, the import or the ingest folder. But you can also upload it and then directly in the interface, work through the data mapping of the DAT file or the ingestion of the natives. Absolutely.
And can you use role-based access controls to limit which users have that ingestion function?
Really specific role-based access, really defined. It can be very granular about who can do what, who can see and change what, and even which documents apply. So we have like 3 different layers of control that you can apply.
Wonderful. Well, Mary,
and we have
you
the
let
history
Emily
on
and
that.
I,
we keep track of all that, of course, as well. Sorry, go ahead.
If you let Emily and I keep going, we'll do it all day long. Thank you so much for having us today.
And thank you, Stephanie, for joining us.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Well, we could watch all day because this was a absolutely fantastic discussion and demo. Thank you, Nuix, for making Bill, Emily, and Stephanie available for this. Our thanks to the EDRM community for your kind attention. And if you enjoyed today's presentation, show our faculty some love. Check out your resources at the bottom of your console. Find some emojis or reactions. And if you really, really loved it, don't forget to click on the link to schedule a meeting with the experts at Nuix. And we'll see you next time on the EDRM Global Webinar channel. Thank you.